Her knees hit the dirt first, then her hands, then her whole body crumpled like a paper doll in the July heat. Clara Morrison hadn't eaten in 2 days. Hadn't stopped working in 3. The pitchfork slipped from her fingers as the world turned white, then black. She didn't see the man watching from the barn door. Didn't feel his arms catch her before her head struck the ground. Didn't hear him whisper, "What have they done to you?" But when she woke, everything she believed about kindness, about men, about second chances, all of it would shatter. If you want to know what happens next, subscribe to my channel and stay until the very end. Drop a comment telling me which city you're watching from. I love seeing how far this story travels. The water trough sat 3 feet away. Clara could see it, could almost taste it. Her tongue stuck to the roof of her mouth like leather left too long in the sun. Just finished the stall, then water, then the next stall, then more water. She'd learned to measure survival in small increments. 1 task at a time, 1 hour at a time, 1 day at a time. Dusty Creek, Texas had taught her that much in 8 weeks. The pitchfork shook in her grip. Her arms burned. The July heat pressed down like a physical weight, and somewhere outside a church bell struck noon. Noon. 6 more hours until the saloon closed, and Hank paid her the 50 cents she'd earned. 50 cents for 12 hours of hauling slop, scrubbing floors, washing glasses, and now mucking out the stables behind the bar because Hank's regular boy had run off to chase gold in California. Clara drove the pitchfork into the hay. Lifted. Her vision blurred. Not now. Not yet. She blinked hard, forced her eyes to focus. The horse in the corner stall watched her with something like pity. "Don't you start," she muttered. "I've had enough pity to last 3 lifetimes." The horse snorted. Clara almost laughed. Would have if laughing didn't take energy she couldn't spare. She remembered laughing. Remembered a house in St. Louis with lace curtains and a piano in the parlor. Remembered her husband Samuel coming home from the clinic tired, but smiling, always smiling. "Clara Jane," he'd say, sweeping her into his arms. "Play me something beautiful. I've seen too much ugly today." And she would. Chopin. Mozart. Whatever made the lines ease from his face. That was 3 years ago. Before the fever took him. Before the debts surfaced. Before she discovered that Samuel Morrison, beloved physician, had given away every penny they owned to patients who couldn't pay. Noble. Foolish. Dead. And Clara was left holding the bill. The pitchfork slipped. She caught it. Barely. Water. She needed water. 3 feet to the trough. She could make it. Clara took 1 step. Her boot caught on nothing, on air, on exhaustion, on 2 years of grief she'd never been allowed to feel. The ground rushed up. She didn't remember falling. Jack McAllister had seen dying cattle move with more grace. He'd stopped at the livery to check on his horse, the black stallion he'd left that morning for new shoes, when movement in the back stables caught his eye. Someone working. Middle of the day. Heat that could kill a man if he wasn't careful. Jack had pushed open the barn door just as the woman collapsed. He moved without thinking, crossed 15 feet in 3 strides, caught her before her skull cracked against the packed earth floor. She weighed nothing. Bones and desperation wrapped in a dress that had been mended too many times. "Hey." He shifted her in his arms, pressed 2 fingers to her neck. Pulse weak, but there. "Hey, can you hear me?" No response. Jack looked around. Empty. The saloon's back door stood closed. Nobody coming, nobody caring. He'd carried injured calves heavier than this woman. Carried them gentle too, because rough handling killed as sure as the injury itself. Same principle applied here. "All right," he said to no one. "All right." He stood. She didn't stir. Her head lolled against his shoulder. Dark hair escaping its pins, face pale as milk despite the heat. Jack walked out of that barn and didn't look back. Walt Brennan had worked McAllister Ranch for 43 years. Started when Jack's mama was still alive, back when the land was scrub and dreams and not much else. He'd seen a lot in those years. Droughts, floods. The boss's sister buried in the family plot. Jack closing off piece by piece until there wasn't much left but work and silence. But he'd never seen Jack carry a woman through the front door like she was something precious. "Boss." Walt rose from the porch chair, newspaper forgotten. "Get Doc Shaw." Jack didn't slow down. "Now." "What?" "Now, Walt." Walt moved. At 67, he could still ride when it mattered. This mattered. Jack laid her on the settee in the front parlor. The room hadn't been used since Ruth died. Sheets covered the furniture. Dust motes floated in the light. He pulled the sheet off, bunched it under her head as a pillow. Found a fan in the hallway closet. Started moving air across her face. "Come on." His voice came out rougher than intended. "Come on, wake up." Her eyelids flickered. "That's it. Come back now." Her eyes opened, brown, deep brown like creek water in autumn. They focused on his face and widened with pure animal terror. She scrambled backward, nearly fell off the settee would have if Jack hadn't caught her arm. "Easy, easy, you're safe. Let go of me." He released her immediately. Stepped back, raised both hands where she could see them. "You collapsed in the livery stable. Heat stroke most likely. I brought you here to help." Clara stared at him. Tall, dark hair touched with gray at the temples, eyes the color of a winter sky, cold but not cruel. Expensive clothes but worn like he'd earned them, hands rough with work despite the wealth they obviously represented. She didn't know him, didn't trust him. "Where is here?" "McAllister Ranch, 2 miles west of town." McAllister. She knew that name. Everyone in Dusty Creek knew that name. "You're Jackson McAllister." "Jack." He lowered his hands slowly. "Doc Shaw's on his way. You need water and rest. Probably food too, by the look of you." Clara's jaw tightened. "I don't need charity." Something flickered across his face. Recognition, maybe. Or memory. "Didn't offer charity, ma'am. Offered water." "And how am I supposed to pay for it?" The question hung between them. Clara watched his expression, waited for the calculation she'd seen in other men's eyes, the assessment of what she might be worth, what she might be willing to do. It didn't come. Instead, Jack McAllister turned and walked to the door. "I'll have Maria bring water and something to eat. Rest until the doc arrives. That's not charity either. That's common sense." He left. Clara sat alone in a dead woman's parlor, surrounded by dust and silence, and wondered what kind of trap she'd fallen into now. Doc Henry Shaw had delivered Jack McAllister into the world 38 years ago, had closed Jack's mother's eyes when the cancer took her, had pronounced Ruth McAllister dead, and watched something in Jack die with her. Now he stood in the parlor, examining a woman who looked like death had already filed its claim. Heat stroke, dehydration, malnutrition. He folded his stethoscope. "When did you last eat, Mrs. Morrison?" Clara sat rigid on the settee, allowing the examination only because refusing it would have drawn more attention. "And I eat fine. Ma'am, I've been a doctor for 40 years. I know what fine looks like. This ain't it." Jack stood by the window watching, silent. Clara could feel his attention like heat from a fire. "I'm between positions," she said carefully. "Things have been lean." "Between positions." Doc Shaw's voice was kind but pointed. "Where were you working?" "I was scrubbing the livery stables. Before that, washing dishes at the saloon. Before that, taking in laundry." She met his eyes. "I work, sir. I work hard. I don't beg, and I don't steal." "Nobody said you did." "They say a lot of other things." Clara couldn't keep the bitterness out anymore. "I hear the whispers. That Morrison widow. Shameful how she carries on. No decent woman would." She stopped, breathed, rebuilt her walls. "It doesn't matter what they say. I survive." Jack's voice came from the window. Morrison, you came from St. Louis. Clara turned. How did you know that? Heard the talk. His face gave nothing away. Heard your husband was a doctor. Heard he died in debt. He died saving lives. The words cracked out of her. He died treating railroad workers for free because nobody else would. He died noble and stupid and good, and this town— She gestured at nothing, at everything. This town decided that made me shameful. Silence. Doc Shaw and Jack exchanged a look Clara couldn't read. Samuel Morrison. Doc Shaw said the name slowly. I knew a Sam Morrison. Trained together in Philadelphia back in '62. Lost touch after the war. Clara's breath caught. You knew Samuel? If it's the same man, tall fellow, curly hair, couldn't stop talking about setting up a free clinic someday. That was him. Her voice dropped to a whisper. That was exactly him. Doc Shaw's face softened. Then I can tell you, Mrs. Morrison, your husband was one of the finest doctors I ever met. And whatever debts he left behind, he earned them honestly. More than honestly. Clara's eyes burned. She would not cry. Not here. Not in front of strangers. That doesn't help me pay them. No. Doc Shaw stood. But it might help you hold your head up. The truth usually does. He turned to Jack. She needs rest food and work that won't kill her. You got any of those lying around? Jack's jaw tightened. He looked at Clara, at the bones showing through her skin, at the pride still blazing in her eyes despite everything. He saw Ruth, saw her the way she'd looked that last month, thin, desperate, ashamed. Saw what happened when a woman got ground down by circumstances and a town's cold judgment. I might, he said slowly. If she's willing. Clara stiffened. Willing to what? Work. Jack crossed the room, stopped 3 feet away, giving her space. My housekeeper retired 2 months ago. House needs managing. Cooking, mending, keeping things in order. There's a cottage on the property. Wages are fair. Work's honest. Clara stared at him. You don't know me. I know you worked 12 hours in killing heat for 50 cents. I know you didn't quit even when your body started shutting down. I know you've got pride enough for 10 women and not a penny to show for it. He paused. That's enough to start. And what will people say rich rancher takes in a widow? Puts her up on his property. Clara shook her head. I won't give this town more ammunition. Don't much care what this town says, ma'am. You should. Reputation matters out here. Money only protects you so far. Jack's eyes flickered. Something old and painful moved behind them. I had a sister once, he said quietly. She cared too much about what people thought. Wouldn't come to me for help because she was ashamed. Thought my reputation mattered more than her life. Clara went still. She was wrong. Jack's voice hardened. And I've spent 3 years living with what that cost. So don't tell me about reputation, Mrs. Morrison. I know exactly what it's worth. The silence stretched. Doc Shaw quietly gathered his bag. I'll leave you two to discuss terms. Mrs. Morrison, eat something. Rest. And for God's sake, stay out of the sun for a few days. He left. The front door closed behind him. Clara and Jack faced each other across the dusty parlor. I don't trust you, Clara said. Smart. I don't trust anyone. Smarter. If I take this position, if I want it understood, I work for wages. I keep to my cottage outside of work hours. No expectations beyond the job. Agreed. And if anyone in that town gives me trouble, I handle it myself. I don't need protecting. Something almost like a smile crossed Jack's face. Also agreed. Though I reserve the right to enjoy watching you handle it. Clara blinked. She hadn't expected humor. Hadn't expected anything but cold calculation or clumsy pity. You're not what I expected, Mr. McAllister. Jack? Mr. McAllister. The almost smile deepened. Fair enough. You can start when Doc clears you. Probably 3-4 days. Maria will bring food and anything else you need. The cottage is out back past the garden. It's got a bed, a stove, and a lock on the door. Key's yours." He walked to the door, paused with his hand on the frame. "Mrs. Morrison." "Yes. You deserve a better life than scrubbing stables for 50 cents. Clara's throat tightened. "You don't know what I deserve." "Maybe not." He looked back at her. "But I know what you don't deserve. And that's a start." He left. Clara sat alone in the dust and silence. Her hands shook. Her eyes burned. She told herself it was just the heat stroke, just exhaustion, just the shock of kindness from an unexpected source. She told herself a lot of things in those quiet moments. Most of them were lies. The cottage was small, clean, furnished with simple pieces that looked like they'd been waiting for someone to use them. Clara ran her fingers over the quilt on the bed. Handmade, old, loved. It was Ruth's. She spun. Jack stood in the doorway, arms crossed. "You shouldn't sneak up on people." "Wasn't sneaking. You were distracted." He nodded at the quilt. "My sister made that when she was 16. Mama taught her. She was supposed to take it when she got married." Clara's hand stilled. "But she didn't." "She didn't get married." Jack's voice flattened. "She died first." The weight of unspoken stories filled the small room. Clara understood that weight. She carried her own. "I'm sorry." "Don't be. Wasn't your fault." He straightened. "Supper's at 6 in the main house. You don't have to join, but Maria makes enough for an army. Seems wrong to let it go to waste." He left before she could respond. Clara sank onto the bed. Ruth's bed, Ruth's quilt, Ruth's cottage, and let the exhaustion finally take her. She slept without dreaming for the first time in 2 years. Harriet Cole heard the news before sunset. She sat in her parlor teacup, frozen halfway to her lips, while Mildred Dawson delivered the gossip like a gift. Carried her right into his house, they say, in his arms, like a bride. Impossible. Saw it with my own eyes. Well, not my eyes exactly, but Tommy Reeves was riding past, and he told Martha who told. I understand. Harriet set down the cup. And she's staying there at the ranch. In Ruth's old cottage, if you can believe it. Ruth's cottage. That poor girl barely cold in the ground, and already Jack McAllister is installing some widow. Exactly. Harriet's mind worked quickly. Jackson McAllister was the most eligible bachelor in 3 counties. Her daughter Lucille was the most eligible woman. The math had always been simple. Until now. We'll need to pay a visit, Harriet said smoothly. Welcome Mrs. Morrison properly. Make sure she understands how things work in Dusty Creek. Mildred's eyes lit up. A welcoming committee. Exactly, Harriet smiled. The warmest welcome she's ever received. 3 days later, Clara stood in Jackson McAllister's kitchen flour on her hands and fire in her heart. I said I could manage fine, Mr. McAllister. And I said the stove needs 2 people to light when the flue sticks. Jack fought with the iron handle. It's not charity, it's physics. Everything with you is not charity. Because it isn't. The flue released with a groan. There, see physics. Clara brushed flour from her apron. Thank you. You're welcome. They stood there awkward as strangers at a dance. 3 days of careful distance. 3 days of proper employer and proper employee. 3 days of something else building underneath. Maria says you played piano in St. Louis, Jack said abruptly. Clara stiffened. Maria talks too much. She's been talking to me for 30 years, hasn't stopped yet. He nodded toward the hallway. There's a piano in the front parlor. Nobody's touched it since Mama died. Seems a waste. I don't play anymore. Can't or won't. Does it matter? Jack considered. Maybe not. Maybe yes. Depends on whether you're done living or just done pretending. The words hit harder than they should have. You don't know anything about my life. No, you survived it. No, you're still surviving it. He moved toward the door. Piano's there if you want it. Nobody's going to make you play, but nobody's going to stop you either. He left. Again. He was always leaving just as conversations got difficult. Clara turned back to the dough she'd been kneading, punched it. Hard. She wasn't done living. She wasn't. She was just tired. So tired of fighting for every scrap. So tired of proving herself to people who'd already decided she was worthless. Her hands stilled in the dough. When had she last done something simply because she wanted to? Not for survival. Not for money. Not for approval. Just for herself. The piano sat in the front parlor, dusty, waiting. Clara wiped her hands on her apron. She didn't walk toward it, not yet. But she didn't walk away either. Walt Brennan found Jack in the barn that evening, brushing down the black stallion with more attention than necessary. "House looks good." Jack didn't turn. "She's competent." "She's more than that." Walt leaned against the stall door. "She's got the boys eating out of her hand. Fixed Tommy's shirt when it tore on the fence. Remembered how Charlie takes his coffee. Been here 3 days and already knows more about this ranch than folks who've worked here 3 years. Your point." "My point is, you did a good thing bringing her here. Whatever your reasons." Jack's hands stilled on the horse's flank. "Ruth." "I figured. I see her, Walt. Every time I look at Mrs. Morrison, I see Ruth. What she could have been if someone had helped her instead of judging her." Walt was quiet for a long moment. "Ruth made her choices, boss. Weren't nothing you could have done. I could have answered her letter." The words fell like stones. "She wrote me, 3 weeks before she died. Told me everything Silas Crawford's promises the baby, how he threw her out when she told him. She asked if she could come home. And I was in the middle of the biggest land deal this ranch had ever seen. Told myself I'd write back after it closed." Jack's voice cracked. "She was dead before the ink dried on the contract." Walt said nothing. There was nothing to say. "I won't make that mistake again." Jack picked up the brush. "If helping Mrs. Morrison gives me a chance to do right by someone, then that's what I'll do. Town can go hang. Town might try. Let them." Walt pushed off the stall door. "Harriet Cole was asking questions in town today. About Mrs. Morrison. About you." Jack's jaw tightened. And I reckon we're about to find out how strong your resolve really is." The welcoming committee arrived the next morning. Harriet Cole, Mildred Dawson, and 3 other churchwomen descended on McAllister Ranch like locusts in Sunday best. Clara saw them coming from the kitchen window. Her hands tightened on the dish she was drying. "Trouble." Maria appeared beside her. "That one, the one in front, Harriet Cole. She runs this town's opinions like a general runs an army." "I've met generals before." "Not like her, you haven't." Maria squeezed her arm. "Want me to say you're ill?" Clara straightened, set down the dish, smoothed her apron. "No, I want you to make tea, the good china, and keep Mr. McAllister out of the parlor." "Why?" "Because this is my fight, not his." Maria's eyes widened with something like respect. "Yes, ma'am." Clara met them at the front door. "Ladies, how kind of you to visit." Harriet's smile could have cut glass. "Mrs. Morrison, we wanted to extend our welcome personally. A woman alone in a new town, you must be overwhelmed." "Not at all. Please come in. I've just put on tea." She led them to the parlor, seated them, poured tea with hands that didn't shake. "You've certainly made yourself comfortable." Mildred glanced around. "One might almost think you'd been here longer than a week." "Mr. McAllister has been very generous with his instructions. I like to learn quickly." "I'm sure you do." Harriet sipped her tea. "Tell me, Mrs. Morrison, what exactly did you do in St. Louis before your unfortunate circumstances?" "I was a music teacher and a physician's wife." "Yes, we heard about your husband. Such a tragedy." Harriet's voice dripped false sympathy. "The gambling debts must have been devastating." Clara's cup didn't waver. My husband didn't gamble, Mrs. Cole. He gave free medical care to railroad workers who couldn't afford treatment. Every penny he earned went to people who needed it more than we did. The debts were to medical suppliers, not bookmakers. Is that so? That's not what we heard. No, I'm sure it isn't. Rumors rarely concern themselves with truth. Harriet's eyes hardened. You're very composed, Mrs. Morrison, for a woman in your position. And what position would that be? Alone, dependent on the charity of a bachelor, living in his dead sister's cottage. Harriet leaned forward. You must understand how it looks. I understand how you want it to look. The temperature in the room dropped 10 degrees. I work here, Mrs. Cole. I cook, I clean, I manage the household. I'm paid fair wages for honest labor. If that offends your sensibilities, I'm sorry for you. But I won't apologize for surviving. Mildred gasped. Harriet's face went red, then white. You have a sharp tongue, Mrs. Morrison. I have an honest one. There's a difference. Honesty. Harriet set down her cup with a sharp click. Let me be honest with you then. Jackson McAllister is the most respected man in this county. My daughter Lucille has been his intended since they were children. Clara's expression didn't change. Then she has nothing to worry about from a housekeeper. Precisely, so long as you remember your place. My place is wherever I stand, Mrs. Cole, wherever I stand and whoever tries to move me. Silence stretched. The other women exchanged uneasy glances. They'd expected an easy target. Found something else entirely. Harriet stood. We've taken enough of your time, Mrs. Morrison. I trust we understand each other. Perfectly. Clara walked them to the door. Watched them climb into their buggy. Watched them drive away in a cloud of dust and indignation. When they were gone, she leaned against the doorframe. Her hands were shaking now, her knees too. Well, Jack's voice came from behind her. That went better than expected. She spun. You were listening. Maria made me. He stepped onto the porch. You didn't need me. No, I didn't. Didn't think so. He studied her face. You're shaking. Adrenaline. Sure it is. He reached past her, pulled the door shut. Come on, I'll show you something. Show me what? Something my mother taught me, for when the shaking won't stop. He walked toward the barn. After a moment, Clara followed. The horse was magnificent, a chestnut mare with a white blaze and intelligent eyes. This is Copper. Jack stroked her neck. Gentlest horse on the ranch. You know how to ride. I haven't ridden since I was a girl. Then it's time to remember. He led Copper out of the stall. When everything feels like too much, Mama used to say, put a horse between you and the ground. Can't think about your troubles when you're trying not to fall off. That's terrible advice. Probably. He held out the reins. Works, though. Clara looked at the horse. At Jack. At the open range beyond the barn. She took the reins. 20 minutes later, she was laughing. Actually laughing. Wind in her hair. Copper moving beneath her like a dance partner. Jack riding beside her on the black stallion. You're a natural, he called. I'm terrified. Same thing. They rode until the sun began to drop. Until Clara's arms ached and her fears felt smaller. Until something that had been frozen inside her started just barely to thaw. They walked the horses back to the barn in comfortable silence. Thank you, Clara said finally. For what? For knowing what I needed before I knew it myself. Jack dismounted, held her horse's bridle while she climbed down. I don't know much about what you need, Mrs. Morrison, but I know what it looks like when someone's been fighting alone for too long. He met her eyes. You don't have to do that here. Fight alone, I mean. Clara's throat tightened. You barely know me. I know enough. They stood there in the dying light. Two broken people. 2 second chances. two hearts that had forgotten how to trust. "Supper's in an hour," Jack said quietly. "Maria's making her famous enchiladas. Seems wrong to let them go to waste." He walked away. Clara watched him go. Then she walked to the house, washed her face, and sat down at the kitchen table like she belonged there. For the first time in 2 years, she almost believed she did. 2 weeks changed everything and nothing. Clara learned the rhythm of McAllister Ranch like a song she'd always known. Up before dawn. Coffee brewing while the sky turned pink. Breakfast for 12 ranch hands who ate like they'd never see food again. Mending, cleaning, managing supplies, supper, collapse. She'd never worked harder in her life. She'd never felt more alive. "You're humming again." Walt Brennan appeared at the kitchen door, hat in hand. "Noticed you do that when you're content." Clara's hands stilled on the bread dough. "I wasn't humming." "Were too. Something classical. Chopin, maybe?" "You know Chopin." "Ma'am, I'm old, not ignorant," Walt grinned. "Boss wants to see you. Office. Said it's important." Clara wiped her hands. "Did he say what about—" "Never does." She found Jack behind his desk, papers spread before him, face tight with worry. "Close the door." She did. "What's wrong?" "Cattle are sick." He pushed a hand through his hair. "Started 3 days ago. Just 1 or 2. Now it's a dozen. Doc Shaw looked at them this morning. And he doesn't know. Never seen anything like it. Fever weakness won't eat." Jack met her eyes. "If it spreads to the whole herd, I'm finished. Everything I've built. Gone." Clara moved closer. "Show me." "Show you what?" "The cattle, the symptoms, everything." "Mrs. Morrison, with respect, this isn't—" "My husband spent 3 years treating railroad workers in conditions most doctors wouldn't touch. I assisted him every day. I've seen diseases that don't have names yet." She held his gaze. "Show me." Jack studied her face. Whatever he saw there made him stand. "Follow me." The sick cattle were quarantined in the far pasture. Clara walked among them slowly, ignoring the heat, ignoring the smell, focusing only on what she observed. Fever. Yes. Swollen joints. Discharge from the eyes. Weakness in the hindquarters. She knelt beside one cow, pressed her hands along its belly. The animal flinched. "When did you change their water source?" Jack frowned. 3 weeks ago. Creek dried up from the drought. We moved them to the east well." "Anyone else use that well?" "No, it's on my land." Clara stood. "I need to see the well." They rode out together. The east well sat at the bottom of a gentle slope, surrounded by scrub brush and baked earth. Clara dismounted before Jack could help her. Walked to the well's edge, looked down. "There," she pointed. "You see that green tinge on the stones?" Jack peered in. "I see it. What is it?" "Algae. Toxic algae. It grows in stagnant water during heat like this. The cattle drink it. It poisons them slowly." "How do you know this?" "Because I watched my husband treat 50 railroad workers for the same thing 2 summers ago. Contaminated water supply at a work camp. He figured it out. Saved most of them." Jack stared at her. "Most? 9 died before he found the source." Clara's voice stayed steady. "But once he stopped the contamination, the rest recovered within a week." "How do we stop it?" "Fresh water. Only fresh water. No more from this well until the algae's cleared. And there's a treatment charcoal and salt mixed into their feed. Helps flush the toxins." Jack was already mounting his horse. "I need to tell the men. Stop them from using this well." "Mr. McAllister." He paused. "I could be wrong. I'm not a veterinarian. I'm not even a doctor." "No." Jack looked at her with something new in his eyes. "You're something better. You're someone who pays attention." He rode hard for the ranch. Clara followed at her own pace, heart pounding for reasons that had nothing to do with the ride. By nightfall, every ranch hand knew the east well was off limits. By morning, they'd rigged a new water system from the North Creek. By the third day, the sick cattle were eating again. Jack found Clara in the kitchen making breakfast like nothing had happened. 4 recovered overnight. Doc Shaw says you were right. Toxic algae. I'm glad. You saved my ranch. I made a suggestion. Your men did the work. Jack crossed the kitchen in 3 strides, stopped close enough that she could smell leather and sage and something uniquely him. I don't know how to thank you. You don't need to thank me. You gave me a job when no one else would. We're even. We're not even close to even. His voice dropped. Clara. Her breath caught. He'd never used her first name before. Mr. McAllister? Jack. Jack. The name felt dangerous on her tongue. This isn't appropriate. Probably not. People will talk. They're already talking. Then we shouldn't give them more ammunition. Jack didn't move. You're right. You're absolutely right. Neither of them stepped back. I should finish breakfast, Clara whispered. You should. The men will be hungry. They will. Still, neither moved. Then the kitchen door banged open, and Tommy Reeves stumbled in face white as chalk. Boss, riders coming, 6 of them. It's Silas Crawford. Jack's expression transformed. Soft became stone. Warmth became winter. Crawford. He said the name like a curse. Who's Silas Crawford? Clara asked. Jack was already moving toward the door. The man who killed my sister. Clara followed him onto the porch. 6 riders approached through the morning dust. The man in front sat his horse like he owned every inch of ground beneath it. Expensive clothes, cold eyes, a smile that never reached them. McAllister. Crawford reined up at the fence. Been a while. Not long enough. Jack's hand rested near his hip. Near the gun, Clara hadn't noticed until now. What do you want? Heard you had some trouble with your cattle. Thought I'd offer assistance. Neighborly, you know. Your ranch is 30 miles away. We're not neighbors. We could be. Crawford's smile widened. I'm looking to expand. Your east pasture would connect nicely with my holdings. Name your price. Not for sale. Everything's for sale, Jack. You just haven't heard the right number yet. Clara watched Jack's jaw tighten, watched the fury he was barely containing. This wasn't about land. This was about Ruth. Get off my property, Crawford. Now. No need for hostility. Crawford's eyes drifted to Clara. Who's this? Didn't know you'd taken a wife. She's none of your concern. Pretty thing? Crawford tipped his hat to Clara. Ma'am, I'm Silas Crawford. I don't believe we've met. Clara stepped forward. We haven't. I'd like to keep it that way. Crawford laughed. Spirit. I like that. Your taste has improved, Jack. Last woman in your life had spirit too. Remember. Jack moved so fast Clara barely saw it. One moment he was on the porch. The next he was at Crawford's horse hand on the man's leg, yanking him half out of the saddle. Say her name. Jack's voice was deadly quiet. Go ahead, say her name and see what happens. Crawford's men reached for their guns. Jack's men appeared from nowhere, rifles raised. Easy, boys. Crawford held up a hand. Just a friendly visit. No need for violence. Leave. Jack released him. Now, and don't come back. Crawford straightened his coat. His smile never faltered, but something ugly moved behind his eyes. You can't protect everyone, McAllister. You couldn't protect her. You won't protect this one either. He looked at Clara. I'll be seeing you again, ma'am. Count on it. They rode out in a cloud of dust and implied threats. Clara moved to Jack's side. His hands were shaking. His whole body was shaking. Jack? Don't. He turned away. Just don't. He walked to the barn. Clara didn't follow. Some grief had to be carried alone. That night she found him sitting on the porch staring at nothing. She sat beside him without speaking. Let the silence stretch. He promised to marry her. Jack's voice came rough and broken. Ruth was 18, innocent, believed every word he said. When she told him about the baby, he laughed, said she was just a rancher's sister playing at being a lady. Clara said nothing, just listened. She wrote me a letter, told me everything, asked if she could come home. His hands clenched. I was closing a land deal. Told myself I'd write back after. She was dead 3 weeks later, walked into the river with stones in her pockets. Jack, I could have saved her. If I'd just answered that letter, if I'd just put her first for once. You didn't know. I should have. He looked at her finally. That's why I couldn't let you collapse in that barn and do nothing. Couldn't watch another woman get destroyed by circumstances while I worried about my own business. Clara reached for his hand. He let her take it. You're not responsible for Ruth's death. Crawford is. And whatever guilt you carry, it doesn't change what you've done for me. What have I done for you? You saw me. Not the widow. Not the scandal. Just me. Jack's fingers tightened around hers. I see you, Clara. I see everything. They sat in the darkness, hands linked, saying nothing more, saying everything. Harriet Cole's second attack came 5 days later. Clara was in town for supplies when she heard the whispers, saw the pointing, felt the temperature drop as she walked into the general store. Mrs. Morrison? The shopkeeper's voice was cool. I'm afraid we can't extend credit today. I'm not asking for credit. I have cash. Even so, we're fully stocked at the moment. Perhaps try elsewhere. Clara looked around. Every eye avoided hers, every face closed. I see. She kept her voice steady. May I ask why? I'm sure I don't know what you mean. I think you do. I think someone's been telling stories. I'd like to know which ones. The shopkeeper flushed. It's not my place to repeat gossip. No, but it's your place to believe it, apparently. Clara turned and walked out. Her hands shook. Her eyes burned. But she didn't cry. Not in front of them. She was loading the wagon what little she'd managed to buy from a sympathetic farmer on the edge of town, when a young woman approached. Mrs. Morrison? Clara looked up. Pretty, blonde, early 20s, nervous. Yes. I'm Lucille Cole. I believe you met my mother. Clara's spine stiffened. I did. I wanted to apologize. Lucille glanced around, making sure no one was watching. What she's doing, the rumors, the pressure on shopkeepers, it's wrong. I've told her so. That must have gone well. It didn't. Lucille almost smiled. She's determined to see me married to Jack McAllister. Has been since I was 15. Doesn't matter that I don't love him. Doesn't matter that he doesn't love me. Doesn't matter that... She stopped. That what? Lucille's eyes filled with tears. That I love someone else. Someone she'd never approve of. Clara studied the girl before her. Saw past the pretty face and expensive dress. Saw someone as trapped as she'd ever been. Who is he? Tommy Reeves. He works at the McAllister Ranch. He's got nothing but a good heart and strong hands, and my mother would rather see me dead than married to a ranch hand. Have you told her? I can't. You don't understand what she's capable of. She destroyed Ruth McAllister's reputation before Silas Crawford ever entered the picture. Called her improper because she smiled at men. Said she was asking for trouble. When she died, my mother said it was inevitable. Like Ruth had brought it on herself. Clara's blood ran cold. Your mother said that at the funeral. Not loudly, but I heard. Lucille wiped her eyes. I'm not like her, Mrs. Morrison. I don't want to be like her. But I don't know how to escape. Clara reached out, took the girl's hand. Come to the ranch, tonight. Tell Jack what you've told me. He won't believe me. Let me handle Jack. You just come. And bring Tommy if you can. Lucille hesitated, then nodded. Tonight, after my mother goes to sleep. She hurried away. Clara watched her go mind-spinning with new information. Harriet Cole hadn't just opposed Clara. She'd helped destroy Ruth McAllister, and Jack didn't know. Clara drove back to the ranch faster than was safe, found Jack in the barn with Walt discussing the recovered cattle. I need to speak with you, alone. Jack read her face, nodded to Walt. The older man slipped out without question. What happened? Harriet Cole has turned the town against me. Shopkeepers won't sell to me. People won't look at me. Whatever she's saying, it's working. I'll go to town tomorrow, set things straight. That's not why I'm telling you. Clara stepped closer. Jack, I spoke with Lucille Cole, Harriet's daughter. His expression hardened. What about her? She told me something, about Ruth, about your sister. What about Ruth? Clara chose her words carefully. Lucille said her mother spread rumors about Ruth, called her improper, said she was asking for trouble, before Silas Crawford ever came into the picture. Jack went still, completely terrifyingly still. She said that at Ruth's funeral, Harriet called her death inevitable. No. The word came out strangled. That's not possible. Harriet was at the funeral. She brought flowers. She told me how sorry she was. Jack. She helped organize the service. Sat with me afterward. Said Ruth was such a sweet girl, and what a tragedy. And you believed her because you were grieving, and she was kind. But Lucille has no reason to lie. She's terrified of her mother. She came to me at great risk to herself. Jack turned away. His shoulders heaved. When he spoke again, his voice was raw. 3 years. 3 years I've blamed myself. Blamed Crawford. Never once thought. He slammed his fist against the barn wall. Never once thought to look at the women who sharpened their tongues on my sister's reputation every Sunday after church. You couldn't have known. I should have. I should have paid attention. He faced her eyes burning. Crawford used her, but Harriet created the conditions. Made Ruth so ashamed she couldn't come to me. Made her believe she was ruined beyond saving. What are you going to do? I don't know yet. He paced the barn like a caged animal. I need proof. Lucille's word against Harriet's won't be enough. Lucille is coming tonight. She wants to talk to you. She wants to bring Tommy Reeves. Jack stopped. Tommy Reeves, the ranch hand. She loves him. Her mother would never approve. She sees what Harriet did to Ruth, and she's afraid she'll be next. Jack processed this. Tommy's a good man, hard worker, honest. Like his boss. Something shifted in Jack's face. You think I'm honest? I think you're the most honest man I've ever met. I think you blame yourself for things that aren't your fault, and you protect people who don't deserve it, and you've been so busy punishing yourself you've forgotten how to live. Clara. I think you're noble and stubborn and infuriating, and I think... She stopped herself. What? What do you think? I think I'm saying too much. She turned to leave. I'll prepare supper. Lucille will be here by 9. Clara. She paused at the barn door. I think the same things about you, all of them, especially the stubborn part. Despite everything, she smiled. Good. She left him standing in the barn, something like hope flickering in his eyes, for the first time in 3 years. Lucille arrived at 9:10, Tommy Reeves beside her. They sat in Jack's study, 4 people with secrets ready to share them. Tell him, Clara urged, everything you told me. Lucille took a shaky breath. Tommy held her hand. It started when Ruth was 16. My mother noticed how men looked at her. Called it improper, said Ruth was encouraging attention. She told other women at church. The whispers started. Jack's face was stone. Go on. By the time Ruth was 18, half the town called her fast. My mother organized the gossip like a general. She decided who was respectable and who wasn't. Ruth wasn't. Why, what had Ruth ever done to her? Nothing. That was the problem. Lucille's voice dropped. Ruth was beautiful, kind, beloved. Everything my mother wanted me to be, but wasn't. She hated Ruth for existing. Tommy spoke for the first time. I heard Mrs. Cole talking to Silas Crawford at the spring social, 2 months before Ruth died. She said Ruth was available and wouldn't be missed. I didn't understand then. I was just a kid. But I remembered. Jack stood, walked to the window. His hands gripped the frame until his knuckles went white. She introduced them. Harriet introduced Crawford to Ruth. I don't have proof of that, Lucille said quickly, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would have been, Jack said quietly. Before tonight. Not anymore. Clara moved to his side. What now? Now I wait. Jack turned from the window. I watch. I gather proof. And when I have enough, I destroy her. Jack. Not violence. Truth. I'll expose her for exactly what she is. Every lie. Every manipulation. Every life she's ruined with her poisoned tongue. He looked at Lucille. Starting with protecting you. You and Tommy will be married before the month is out. On this ranch. With my blessing. Lucille burst into tears. Tommy shot to his feet. Sir Mr. McAllister, we can't ask you to... You didn't ask, I offered. Jack's voice was firm. Ruth died because she thought she had no one to turn to. I won't let that happen again. Not to Lucille. Not to Clara. Not to anyone else Harriet Cole decides to destroy. Clara's heart cracked open. This man, this broken, noble, impossible man. Thank you, Lucille whispered. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Your mother will fight this. Crawford will probably get involved. He's been circling my land for months. It's going to get ugly before it gets better. We'll fight with you. Tommy straightened. Whatever you need, sir, we're in. Jack nodded, extended his hand. Tommy shook it. Welcome to the family, Tommy, such as it is. Later, after Lucille and Tommy had slipped back into town, Jack and Clara stood on the porch. You realize what you've done, Clara said. Declared war on the most powerful woman in the county. I've been at war with her for 3 years. I just didn't know it. And Crawford? He's dangerous, Jack. Really dangerous. I know. Jack's jaw tightened. He'll use this. Find a way to twist it against us. But I'm done hiding. Done being careful. Done letting fear make my decisions. Clara faced him fully. Us. You said us. Jack met her eyes. I did. Jack, I know. I know it's complicated. I know the town's already talking. I know Crawford will use you against me if he can. He stepped closer. I don't care. You should. Maybe, but I'm tired of should. I've spent 3 years doing what I should. Being respectable. Being careful. And my sister's still dead, and I'm still alone, and nothing's changed. What do you want to change? Everything. He reached for her hand. Starting with this. Starting with us. Clara's heart pounded. I'm not ready. I know. I might never be ready. That's fine too. You'd wait, not knowing if I'd ever... I'd wait forever. Jack's voice was rough. You're worth waiting for, Clara. Whatever you decide, whatever happens, you're worth it. She didn't have words, didn't have breath, so she did the only thing that made sense. She stepped forward, rose on her toes, and kissed him. Just once, just briefly, just enough to say what words couldn't. Then she pulled back. Don't make me regret that. Never. Jack's voice was hoarse. I swear. She walked back to her cottage. Didn't look back. Couldn't. But she was smiling. And somewhere in the darkness, a rider watched from the tree line. Watched the kiss. Watched Clara walk away. Watched Jack stand motionless on the porch. Then Silas Crawford turned his horse toward town. He had work to do. Crawford moved faster than Jack expected. 3 days after the kiss posters appeared on every storefront in Dusty Creek, Clara's name printed in bold letters alongside accusations that made her stomach turn. Widow seductress corrupts local rancher. The truth about Clara Morrison, debts, deception, and disgrace. McAllister ranch den of impropriety. Clara stood frozen outside the general store, staring at the words. Around her, people gathered, pointed, laughed. "That's her," someone whispered. "The one who trapped Jackson McAllister." Shameless. Absolutely shameless. Poor man. Probably doesn't know what hit him. Clara ripped the poster from the wall. Her hands shook, but her voice stayed steady. "This is lies. Every word." "Is it?" Harriet Cole emerged from the crowd, eyes glittering with triumph. "We have witnesses, Mrs. Morrison. People who saw you and Mr. McAllister in a compromising position. People who know exactly what kind of woman you are." "What witnesses?" "Reliable ones." Harriet smiled. "Silas Crawford himself was riding past the ranch 3 nights ago. He saw everything." Clara's blood ran cold. The kiss. Crawford had seen the kiss. "One kiss doesn't make me a seductress." "One kiss." Harriet's voice rose for the crowd's benefit. "Is that what you call it? Mr. Crawford described something far more intimate." "He's lying." "Is he? Or are you simply embarrassed to be caught?" Clara looked at the faces surrounding her, saw judgment, condemnation, the same expressions she'd fled in St. Louis, the same walls closing in. "Believe what you want." Clara's voice hardened. "I know the truth. So does Jack McAllister. And so does your daughter." Harriet's smile flickered. "My daughter has nothing to do with this." "Doesn't she ask her about Tommy Reeves? Ask her what she really thinks about your plans for her future. Ask her—" "Enough." Harriet stepped closer, voice dropping to a hiss. "You think you can threaten me? I built this town's reputation. I decide who belongs and who doesn't. And you, Mrs. Morrison, don't belong." "Maybe not, but I'm not leaving." Clara walked past her. The crowd parted. No one met her eyes. She didn't cry until she reached the wagon, didn't break until she was out of sight. Then she wept, hard, ugly, the way she hadn't wept since Samuel died. Jack found her at the creek an hour later. She was sitting on a rock face, swollen eyes red. He didn't speak, just sat beside her. "Crawford saw us." Clara's voice was hollow. "The kiss. He's telling everyone we're lovers." "I know, Walt told me. It's over, Jack. My reputation, yours, everything we've built." "No." Clara looked at him. "How can you say that the whole town thinks—" "I don't care what the town thinks." Jack's voice cut like steel. "I care what's true. I care what you think. I care what we build from here." "There is no here, not anymore. I have to leave. If I stay, Crawford wins. Harriet wins. They'll destroy you to get to me. Let them try. Jack, I've lost everything that mattered to me once before." He gripped her shoulders, made her face him. "My sister. My faith in people. My belief that doing right would be enough. I won't lose you too. You barely know me. I know you saved my cattle. I know you stood up to Harriet Cole without flinching. I know you kissed me like you meant it." His voice dropped. "I know you're the first thing I've cared about in 3 years. Is that enough?" Clara couldn't answer. Couldn't think. "Come back to the ranch," Jack said. "We'll figure this out. Together." Together. She tasted the word. Foreign. Frightening. "I don't know how to do that anymore." "Neither do I. We'll learn." He held out his hand. She stared at it for a long moment. Then she took it. They rode back to the ranch in silence. But it was a different silence now. Shared. Understood. Walt met them at the gate, face grim. "Boss, we've got trouble." "More trouble?" Crawford's men, 6 of them, rode in about an hour ago. They're at the south pasture. Said they're surveying land boundaries. Jack's jaw tightened. Our land. That's what I told them. They laughed. Get the rifles. All of them. Clara grabbed his arm. Jack, wait. You can't start a war over a boundary survey. It's not about boundaries. It's about intimidation. Crawford's testing me, seeing how far he can push before I push back. And if you push back with guns, he wins. You become the aggressor. The town already thinks the worst of us. Don't give them proof. Jack hesitated. The rage in his eyes warred with something else. Reason. Caution. Then what do you suggest? Let me talk to them. Absolutely not. I'm nobody to Crawford. Just a widow. What threat am I? But if I go out there calm and reasonable and his men threaten me... Clara's voice steadied. Then he's the aggressor, not you. You'd put yourself in danger to protect my reputation. I'd put myself in danger to protect us. Both of us. Our future, if we have one. Jack stared at her. Something shifted in his face. We have one. If you want it. I want it. Want? The words came out before she could stop them. God help me, I want it. He kissed her. Hard. Fast. In front of Walt and 3 ranch hands. Be careful, he whispered against her lips. Always. Clara rode out alone. The south pasture was 20 minutes at a comfortable pace. She made it in 15. 6 men on horseback, all armed, all watching her approach with barely concealed amusement. Well, well, the leader tipped his hat. If it ain't the widow herself. Crawford said you were pretty. Didn't mention you were stupid too. I'm not stupid, sir. I'm curious. What exactly are you surveying? Land boundaries. Boss says this pasture might be on his side of the line. Figured we'd check. With rifles. Surveying equipment. The man grinned. West Texas style. Clara kept her voice steady. The boundary markers were set 20 years ago by a federal surveyor. They haven't moved. Neither has McAllister land. Things change. Not property lines, not legally. The man's grin faded. You got a mouth on you, widow. Maybe someone should teach you when to use it. Maybe someone should teach you property law, but I suspect that's beyond your education. Movement behind her. Fast. Too fast. She turned just as a rider grabbed her horse's bridle. Her mare reared. Clara held on barely. Easy now. Another man moved in. Nobody's getting hurt. We just want to send a message. What message? That McAllister's woman ain't safe anywhere, not even on his own land. Clara's heart pounded, but her voice stayed cold. I'm not McAllister's woman. I'm McAllister's employee, and you're trespassing on McAllister land. Semantics. Law. The leader rode closer, so close she could smell whiskey on his breath. Here's what's going to happen, widow. You're going to ride back to that ranch and tell your employer that Silas Crawford wants a meeting. Tomorrow. Noon. The crossroads south of town. Just the 2 of them. Why would Jack agree to that? Because if he doesn't, Crawford will file a claim on this pasture, and the east pasture, and every inch of McAllister land that borders his holdings. It'll take years to sort out in court. Years Jack doesn't have. That's extortion. That's business. The man released her bridle. Ride home, widow. Deliver the message, and pray your employer makes the smart choice. Clara rode. She didn't look back, but she memorized every face, every voice, every threat. Jack was waiting at the gate. His face went white when he saw her. What happened? Are you hurt? I'm fine. Clara dismounted with shaking legs. Crawford wants a meeting. Tomorrow noon. Crossroads south of town. Alone. Just the 2 of you. Jack's face hardened. It's a trap. Obviously. But he's threatening to file land claims if you refuse. Tie you up in court for years. Let him try. Jack. Clara gripped his arm. Think. Crawford has money. Lawyers. Political connections. You have a ranch and a reputation that's already under attack. A court battle could destroy you. What's the alternative? Meet with the man who killed my sister. Meet with him. Hear what he wants. Buy time while we find another way. There is no other way. There's always another way. Clara's voice dropped. Samuel used to say that. When patients seemed hopeless, when treatments failed, there's always another way. You just have to find it. Jack stared at her. The fury in his eyes slowly banked into something else. Something harder. More calculated. All right, I'll meet him, but I'm not going alone. I'll come. No. Walt goes. Armed. Hidden. If Crawford tries anything, Walt puts a bullet in him. That's murder. That's justice. Clara shook her head. It's suicide. Crawford's men will retaliate. You'll hang. The ranch will be seized. Everything you've built. I don't care about the ranch. But I do. Clara stepped closer. I care about the life we could build here. The future we talked about. I care about proving to this town that we're better than their worst assumptions. Jack's shoulders sagged. The fight went out of him. What do you want me to do? Go to the meeting. Listen. Agree to nothing. Come home. Then we plan. And if Crawford attacks, then you defend yourself. But don't strike first. Not until we have proof he's the aggressor. Proof the town can't ignore. Jack was quiet for a long moment. Then he nodded. You're smarter than me, Clara Morrison. I'm more cautious. There's a difference. Same result. He touched her face. I'll go tomorrow. I'll listen. I'll come home. Promise. Promise. But promises Clara knew were fragile things, especially in a world where men like Crawford held all the power. She spent the night preparing for the worst. The meeting was set for noon. Jack left at 11. Clara watched him ride out with a knot in her stomach that wouldn't ease. Walt followed 10 minutes later, rifle hidden under his duster. Clara paced, prayed, waited. At 2 o'clock, the first gunshot echoed across the valley. Clara ran for her horse, didn't saddle it, just swung up and rode hard toward the crossroads. She found them a mile out, Jack on the ground, Walt standing over him, Crawford nowhere in sight. What happened? Clara dropped from her horse. Is he? I'm fine. Jack sat up wincing. Bullet grazed my arm. Nothing serious. Nothing serious. You were shot. Crawford's man panicked, drew early. Walt took him down before he could fire again. Clara looked at Walt. The older man's face was grim. Crawford ran. Coward didn't even draw. Walt spat in the dust. Whole thing was a setup. He wanted Jack dead and me to take the blame. Can you prove that? The shooter's dead. Crawford's gone. His other men scattered. Walt shook his head. No proof. Just bodies. Clara helped Jack to his feet. His arm bled through his shirt, but he moved steady enough. This changes nothing, Jack said. Crawford will claim self-defense. Say we ambushed his men. Maybe. Clara's mind raced. Or maybe we use this. Use it how? The shooter drew first. You were unarmed. Were you unarmed? Gun was holstered. Never touched it. Then we have witnesses. Your hands were visible when the shot came. Walt saw everything. Walt's my employee. His word won't mean much against Crawford's. It will if we have other witnesses. Clara looked toward town. The crossroads is visible from the ridge. Anyone up there would have seen everything. Jack's eyes narrowed. The shepherd's camp. Old Miguel grazes his flock up there this time of year. Find him, before Crawford does. Jack moved toward his horse, stopped, turned. Come with me. You need to ride fast. I'll slow you down. I don't care. His voice roughened. I almost died today, Clara. I'm not letting you out of my sight. She wanted to argue, couldn't. They rode together, found Miguel's camp an hour later. The old shepherd had seen everything. The rich man's guard drew first, shot without warning. Your man fired back. Miguel's weathered face was calm. I'll tell anyone who asks. Crawford will try to buy your silence. Crawford can try. My sheep don't need his money. Miguel smiled. Neither do I. They rode back to town as the sun began to set. Jack's arm had stopped bleeding, but Clara insisted they see Doc Shaw anyway. The doctor met them at his office door. His face was troubled. I heard about the crossroads. Town's buzzing. Crawford's version or the truth? Depends who's talking. Doc Shaw ushered them inside. But there's something else. Something you need to know. Clara's stomach dropped. What? Doc Shaw closed the door, lowered his voice. Lucille Cole came to see me this morning. She's pregnant Jack, 3 months along. Tommy Reeves is the father. The world stopped. Does Harriet know? Jack's voice was deadly quiet. Not yet, but she will soon. Lucille can't hide it much longer. Christ. Jack slammed his fist against the wall. Crawford's trying to kill me. Harriet's about to destroy her own daughter, and we're supposed to fight both of them at once. You won't be fighting alone. Doc Shaw straightened. I've known this town for 40 years, treated every family in it, delivered their babies, buried their dead. I know who's decent and who's pretending. What does that mean? It means I'm done being neutral. Harriet Cole has poisoned this town long enough. She drove Ruth McAllister to her grave. She's trying to destroy Lucille. And now she's allied with a man who just tried to murder you in broad daylight. Doc Shaw met Jack's eyes. I'll stand with you, publicly, and I'll bring others who feel the same. Why now? Why not before? Because before I thought staying quiet kept the peace. Now I know it just keeps the poison spreading. The old doctor's voice hardened. Ruth deserved better. So does Lucille. So does Mrs. Morrison here. Clara felt tears prick her eyes. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. We've got a war to fight. And it starts tonight. Tonight. Town hall meeting, 8 o'clock. Harriet called it herself. She's planning to demand you both be run out of town. Jack's jaw tightened. Then we'll be there. Armed with what the town's already against you. Armed with the truth. Clara stepped forward. Miguel's testimony. Lucille's story. And everyone who's ever been hurt by Harriet Cole's poisoned tongue. That's a long list. Then we'd better start making it. The next 4 hours were a blur of planning, gathering, and preparation. Doc Shaw sent word to families who'd suffered under Harriet's judgment. Jack contacted ranch hands who'd heard rumors about Ruth's death. Clara spoke with women in town who'd been shunned, ignored, or destroyed by the Church Women's Whisper Network. By 8 o'clock, they had 14 people willing to stand against Harriet Cole in public. By 8:15, they were walking into the town hall. The room was packed, every seat filled, people standing along the walls. Harriet Cole sat at the front, flanked by her allies. Silas Crawford stood near the door, arms crossed, watching. Reverend Hayes called the meeting to order. We're here to discuss a matter of community concern. Mrs. Cole, you requested this meeting. The floor is yours. Harriet stood. Her face was serene, but her eyes burned. Thank you, Reverend. I'll be brief. Jackson McAllister has brought scandal into our community. He's harboring a woman of questionable character. He's engaged in violence against respected citizens, and he's corrupting our young people with his example. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. I move that we formally request Mr. McAllister remove Mrs. Morrison from his property and restore decency to our community. Second, someone called from the back. Harriet smiled. All in favor. Wait, Jack stood. I believe I'm entitled to respond. Reverend Hayes hesitated, looked at Harriet, looked at Jack. Mr. McAllister, you may speak. Jack walked to the front of the room. His arm was bandaged, his face was calm, but his eyes were fire. Mrs. Cole talks about scandal, about decency, about respect. Let me tell you about those things. He turned to face the crowd. 3 years ago, my sister Ruth died. You all know how. What you don't know is why." His voice hardened. "Ruth didn't drown herself because Silas Crawford abandoned her. She drowned herself because this town, this community had already decided she was worthless." Gasps, whispers. Harriet's face went white. Months before Crawford ever touched her, the whispers started. "Ruth McAllister is improper. Ruth McAllister encourages attention. Ruth McAllister is fast." Words planted by women in this room. Women who decided my sister's worth before they ever spoke to her. Jack pointed directly at Harriet. "Words planted by you, Mrs. Cole." "That's a lie." "Is it?" Jack's voice rose. "Your own daughter disagrees. Lucille told me everything. How you spread rumors about Ruth. How you introduced her to Crawford as available. How you called her death inevitable at her own funeral." The room exploded. People shouted, some at Jack, some at Harriet. Reverend Hayes banged his gavel. "Order, order! Let him finish." Doc Shaw stood. "This man has a right to speak." Clara watched Harriet's face crumble. Watched 3 years of lies begin to unravel. And she knew in that moment that nothing would ever be the same. "I'm not done," Jack continued. "Because my sister's story isn't the only one. There are women in this room right now who've been destroyed by the same whisper campaign. Women shunned for being widows, for being poor, for being different. Women like Clara Morrison, who came to this town looking for honest work and found only judgment." He looked at Clara. She rose, walked to his side. "My name is Clara Morrison. My husband Samuel was a doctor. He died treating workers who couldn't afford care. He left debts because he gave everything he had to people who needed it more than we did. And when I came to Dusty Creek broke, and grieving this town decided I was shameful." She turned to face them all. "I scrubbed floors for pennies. I washed dishes until my hands bled. I collapsed from heat stroke in a barn alone because no one thought I was worth helping. Except Jack McAllister. He saved my life, gave me work, gave me dignity, and for that you want to run me out of town." Silence. "We're not asking you to like us," Clara continued. "We're asking you to see the truth. Silas Crawford tried to kill Jack today. Ask Miguel the shepherd, he saw everything. Crawford's man drew first, shot without provocation. The only reason Jack's alive is because his foreman shot back." More gasps. More whispers. Harriet stood. "This is nonsense. Character assassination. You have no proof." "I have proof." Doc Shaw rose. "I've treated every family in this town. I know what Ruth McAllister looked like the day she died. I know the bruises on her arms that nobody mentioned at the funeral. I know the letters she wrote begging for help that were never answered." He walked forward. "And I know that Samuel Morrison was one of the finest doctors I ever trained with. His widow doesn't deserve your contempt. She deserves your respect." One by one, others stood. The ranch hands who'd heard whispers. The women who'd been shunned. The families who'd suffered in silence. 14 voices, then 20, then more. Harriet Cole looked around, saw her empire crumbling, saw every ally averting their eyes. She turned to Crawford. "Say something." But Crawford was already gone, slipped out when the tide turned, left her to drown alone. "This isn't over," Harriet hissed at Jack. "This isn't—" "It is." Reverend Hayes spoke quietly but firmly. "Mrs. Cole, I think it's time you went home. We have a lot to discuss. Without you." Harriet's face twisted. For a moment, Clara thought she might scream, might attack, might do something desperate. Instead, she straightened her spine, lifted her chin. "You'll regret this. All of you." She walked out alone. The door closed behind her. And Clara Morrison, standing beside the man she loved, finally let herself breathe. The victory lasted exactly 12 hours. Clara woke to shouting. Horses. The crack of wood splintering somewhere close. She threw on her dress, ran barefoot to the main house. Jack was already on the porch, rifle in hand. Walt beside him. Ranch hands spreading out with weapons drawn. What is it? Clara grabbed Jack's arm. What's happening? Barn's on fire. She spun. The east barn, the one holding feed for winter supplies for the cattle drive equipment worth thousands, blazed against the pre-dawn sky. Crawford. Who else? Men ran with buckets, useless against flames that tall. Clara watched 3 years of work turn to ash in 20 minutes. When it was over, Jack stood in the ruins. His face was stone. His hands hung loose at his sides. He waited until the town supported us, until we thought we'd won. Jack's voice was hollow. Then he hit us where it hurts most. We can rebuild. With what that barn held half my operating capital. Feed seed equipment. Gone. He kicked at a charred beam. I'll have to sell cattle to cover the loss, in a drought year, at rock-bottom prices. Then we sell cattle. It won't be enough, not to keep the ranch running and rebuild. Jack finally looked at her. I might lose everything, Clara. You won't lose me. The words hung between them, raw. True. Jack reached for her hand, held it tight. I don't deserve you. No, you don't. She almost smiled. But you've got me anyway. They stood in the ashes together as the sun rose. Whatever came next, they'd face it the same way. But Crawford wasn't finished. The sheriff arrived at noon. Clara saw the badge glinting before she saw the man, tall, thin, uncomfortable. Jackson McAllister. You know who I am, Sheriff Price. I've got a warrant. Price held out the paper like it might bite him. For your arrest. Charges of attempted murder. Murder. Clara stepped forward. Jack was the victim. Crawford's man shot first. Mr. Crawford filed a complaint this morning. Says your foreman ambushed his men without provocation. Says he barely escaped with his life. That's a lie. Maybe so, ma'am, but I've got to follow the law. Price looked genuinely miserable. Jack, I don't want to do this. We've known each other 20 years, but Crawford's got lawyers, connections. If I don't bring you in, they'll replace me with someone who will. Jack's jaw tightened. How long? Trial's set for 2 weeks. You'll stay in the county jail until then, unless you can make bail. How much? $5,000. Clara's heart stopped. $5,000 was more than the ranch was worth after last night's fire. I don't have it, Jack said quietly. I know. Price looked at the ground. I'm sorry, Jack. I truly am. Jack turned to Clara. Get Doc Shaw. Tell him what's happening. He'll know what to do. Jack. I'll be fine. 2 weeks isn't forever. He touched her face. Don't let Crawford win while I'm gone. Promise me. I promise. They took him away in chains. Clara watched until the dust settled. Then she mounted her horse and rode harder than she'd ever ridden in her life. Doc Shaw listened without interrupting. When Clara finished, his face was grave. Crawford's clever. He's using the law as a weapon now. Knows he can't beat Jack in a fair fight. How do we stop him? We need proof he started that fire. Witnesses, evidence, something the court can't ignore. Where do we find that? Crawford's men. Someone must have seen something, heard something. Doc Shaw leaned forward. There's a man. Used to work for Crawford before he grew a conscience. Name's Pete Holloway. Lives in a shack outside town. If anyone knows Crawford's secrets, it's him. Clara was on her horse before he finished speaking. Pete Holloway's shack sat at the edge of nowhere. A man answered her knock, weathered, wary, one eye, scarred shut. Mr. Holloway. Who's asking some? Clara Morrison. I need your help. Don't know any Morrison. You know Silas Crawford? Holloway's good eye narrowed. Lady, you should leave. Now, before someone sees you here. Jackson McAllister is in jail for a crime he didn't commit. Crawford burned his barn last night and blamed him for the shooting at the crossroads. I need someone who can testify to what Crawford really is. And you think I'm stupid enough to do that? I think you're decent enough. Clara held his gaze. I think you left Crawford's employ for a reason. I think that reason still matters to you. Silence stretched. Holloway's hand tightened on the doorframe. Crawford killed my brother. The words came out flat, dead. Made it look like an accident, barn collapse, but I saw him give the order, saw him smile when they pulled the body out. Then help me stop him. Help you? Holloway laughed bitterly. Lady, I've been hiding from Crawford for 3 years. If I testify, he'll kill me before I reach the courtroom. What if we protected you? Hal McAllister's in jail. His ranch is half burned. You've got nothing. I've got the truth, and a town that's finally ready to hear it. Clara stepped closer. You've been hiding for 3 years, running, looking over your shoulder. Is that any way to live? Better than dying? Then, is it? She let the question hang. Your brother's dead. Crawford walks free, and you spend every day knowing you could have stopped him but didn't. Holloway's face crumpled. For a moment he looked ancient, broken. My brother was a good man. Better than me. Then honor him, please. The silence stretched so long Clara thought he'd refuse. Then Holloway stepped back from the door. Come inside. I'll tell you everything I know. An hour later, Clara had enough to hang Crawford 3 times over. Land fraud, intimidation, arson, murder. A decade of crimes hidden behind money and power. This will work, Holloway asked. It has to. Clara gathered her notes. The trial is in 2 weeks. Can you stay hidden until then? I've got a cousin in Mexico. Left yesterday wouldn't be the worst idea. No. Clara shook her head. You need to stay close. If you run, Crawford will know something's wrong. He'll destroy the evidence, bribe the witnesses. We need him confident. Confident? Crawford thinks he's won. Let him keep thinking that, right up until the moment we destroy him. Holloway studied her face. You're not what I expected. What did you expect? A victim. Someone scared. Someone weak. He almost smiled. Crawford's in more trouble than he knows. Clara rode back to the ranch at dusk. Walt met her at the gate. Where have you been? The boys are worried. Finding ammunition. Clara dismounted. Where's Lucille Cole? Main house. Showed up about an hour ago. Said she couldn't go home. Clara found Lucille in the kitchen, red-eyed and trembling. Tommy Reeves sat beside her, holding her hand. My mother knows. Lucille's voice cracked. About the baby. About Tommy. About everything. How? She found my letters, the ones Tommy wrote me. Tears streamed down Lucille's face. She said I was dead to her. Said she'd rather see me in the ground than married to a ranch hand. Clara knelt beside her. You're safe here. Both of you. For how long my mother will come for me? Your mother has bigger problems right now. She's lost the town's support. Crawford's abandoned her. By the time she gets her footing, you'll be married and beyond her reach. Tommy spoke up. Mrs. Morrison, we can't ask you to. You're not asking. I'm offering. Clara straightened. Jack wanted you married before the month ended. We'll do it before the week ends. 3 days from now. Right here. Without Jack. Jack would want this. He said so himself. Clara's voice softened. You've earned your happiness, Lucille. Both of you. Don't let anyone take that away. Lucille broke into fresh tears. But these were different. Grateful. Hopeful. Clara left them to comfort each other. She had work to do. 3 days passed in a blur of planning. The wedding was small, just ranch hands and a handful of townsfolk who'd stood with them at the meeting. Doc Shaw performed the ceremony since Reverend Hayes was still too conflicted to participate. Clara watched Lucille and Tommy exchange vows in the afternoon light. watched them kiss, watched them begin their life together, despite everything trying to tear them apart. She thought about Jack, wondered if he was watching the same sky, wondered if he knew what she was building in his absence. "Penny for your thoughts." Walt appeared beside her. "Just thinking about the future. We've got to survive the present first." Walt's face was grim. "Crawford's lawyer just arrived in town. Fancy fellow from Austin. Word is he's never lost a case. Then we'll be his first defeat. You sound confident." "I am confident." Clara turned to face him. "We have Pete Holloway. We have Miguel's testimony. We have a town that's finally ready to stand against Crawford. All we need is time. Time's running out. Trial starts in 4 days. Then we work faster." Clara worked through the night, organized testimony, prepared witnesses, built a case so tight Crawford couldn't wriggle free. But Crawford wasn't idle either. The first witness disappeared on day 2. Miguel the shepherd vanished from his camp without a trace. His flock scattered, his tent burned. Clara rode out to investigate, found nothing but ashes and fear. "Crawford's cleaning house," she told Walt that night, eliminating anyone who might testify against him. "Holloway. Still safe. I moved him this morning. He's at Doc Shaw's hiding in the cellar." "What about the others?" "I've warned them, told them to stay together, stay visible. Crawford won't risk a public move." "You hope. I pray." Day 3 brought worse news. The judge assigned to Jack's trial had been replaced. The new one, Judge Harold Kern, was Crawford's cousin by marriage. Clara received the news like a physical blow. "The trial's fixed," she said flatly. "Crawford bought the verdict before it started." "Not necessarily." Doc Shaw paced his study. "Kern is corrupt, but he's also careful. He won't acquit Crawford outright too obvious. He'll manipulate the evidence, exclude testimony, make sure Jack has no defense." "How do we fight that?" "We don't fight it in court, we fight it outside." Doc Shaw stopped pacing. "There's a federal marshal passing through next week. Name's Thomas Wade. He's got no connection to Crawford, no reason to favor him. If we can get our evidence to Wade, he can bypass the local courts entirely." "When does he arrive?" 3 days after the trial starts." "That's too late. The verdict could come in 2 days. Then we delay. Somehow." Doc Shaw met her eyes. "You're resourceful, Mrs. Morrison. Think of something." Clara thought, planned, schemed, and found her answer in the most unlikely place. Harriet Cole came to the ranch on day 4. Clara saw her approaching from the window. Her first instinct was to bar the door. Her second was curiosity. She met Harriet on the porch. Neither woman sat. "What do you want?" Harriet's face was gaunt, her eyes hollow. She looked like she'd aged 10 years in 4 days. "To bargain. You have nothing I want." "I have information." Harriet's voice cracked. "About Crawford, about what he's planning. Why would you help us? You're his ally." "Was. Past tense." Harriet's hands shook. "He came to my house last night, told me what he'd do to Lucille if I didn't help him destroy you. Described it in detail. Smiled while he did it." Clara's blood ran cold. "What did he say?" "That my daughter would be found in a ditch, that everyone would assume she'd killed herself from shame, just like Ruth McAllister." Harriet's composure shattered. "I created this monster. I introduced him to Ruth. I stood by while he destroyed her, and now he's threatening my own child. Lucille is safe here. For how long Crawford has men everywhere? He'll find her eventually. Then help us stop him. Tell me what you know." Harriet hesitated. The war on her face was painful to watch, pride battling terror, self-preservation, fighting something that might have been conscience. "Crawford's planning to have Jack killed during the trial. Make it look like an escape attempt. He's paid off one of the guards." "Which guard?" "A man named Decker. Big fellow, scar on his chin. He'll do it tomorrow during the first recess." Clara's heart pounded. How do you know this? Because Crawford told me, bragged about it, said by tomorrow night McAllister would be dead and I'd have my daughter back if I kept my mouth shut. Harriet's eyes filled with tears. I've done terrible things, Mrs. Morrison, unforgivable things, but I won't let my silence kill another person. Why should I believe you? You shouldn't. I've given you no reason to. Harriet reached into her bag, pulled out a packet of letters. These are Crawford's personal correspondence. I stole them from his desk 2 years ago. Insurance in case he ever turned on me. Clara took the letters, read the first one. Her hands began to shake. This is everything. Land deals, bribes, murder orders. Ruth McAllister's death spelled out in his own handwriting. Harriet's voice dropped. I should have destroyed them, should have burned them the day I got them. But some part of me knew this day would come. Clara looked at the woman before her, saw the monster she'd been, saw the broken creature she'd become. This doesn't make us friends. I don't expect it to. And it doesn't redeem you. Nothing can. Harriet's voice was steady now, accepting. But maybe it can save Jack McAllister. Maybe it can protect my daughter. Maybe that's enough. Clara tucked the letters inside her dress. Decker, the guard with the scar. Tomorrow, first recess. Crawford wants it done publicly so it looks natural. Then we stop him tonight. Clara moved fast, gathered Walt, gathered the loyal ranch hands, explained Harriet's warning. We ride to the jail, she finished. Get Jack out before Decker can make his move. That's a jailbreak. Walt's face was troubled. Jack would hang for sure if he's caught escaping. He'll die if he stays. Crawford's not bluffing. How do we know Harriet's telling the truth? We don't. But can we afford to assume she's lying? The men exchanged glances. One by one they nodded. Saddle up, Walt said. We ride in 20 minutes. Clara grabbed a rifle, checked the chamber. Her hands were steady. Mrs. Morrison? Tommy Reeves appeared at her side. Let me come. You just got married. Stay with Lucille. She told me to go. Said if Jack dies, this ranch falls. If the ranch falls, we've got nothing. Tommy's jaw tightened. I owe him everything. Both of us do. Clara looked at this young man, barely 20, newly married, ready to risk his life for a boss who'd shown him basic human decency. Stay close to Walt. Follow his orders. Don't be a hero. Yes, ma'am. They rode out at midnight. 8 men and 1 woman against whatever guards Crawford had bought. The jail sat on the edge of town. Quiet. Dark. 1 lamp burning in the window. Walt circled around back. Clara approached the front. Knocked. A guard opened the door. Young. Nervous. Not Decker. Ma'am, what do you... Clara pushed past him. Where's Jackson McAllister? You can't be here. Visiting hours are... I'm not visiting. I'm warning you. Clara turned to face him. There's a guard named Decker working tonight. He's been paid to kill Mr. McAllister. If you're smart, you'll step aside and let me get Jack out before that happens. The guard's face went pale. I don't know what you're talking about. Yes, you do. I can see it in your eyes. Clara moved closer. You have a choice right now. Help a murderer or help an innocent man. Which is it? The guard's hands shook. Decker's in the back, with McAllister. He said he was conducting an interview. Clara ran. The back cells were dark. She heard voices, struggled forward. Think anyone's going to save you, McAllister? Your widow's got nobody left. Your ranch is ashes. This is the end. Clara burst through the door. Decker spun. His hand went to his gun. She shot first. The bullet caught his shoulder. He went down screaming. His weapon clattered across the floor. Jack stared at her through the bars. Clara. Keys. Where are the keys? Decker's belt. Clara grabbed them, unlocked the cell. Jack stepped out and pulled her into his arms. You came." "Of course I came." She was shaking now. "We have to go. Crawford has men everywhere." They ran. Walt had horses waiting. They rode hard into the night, not stopping, until the ranch gates closed behind them. Only then did Clara allow herself to breathe. "You shot a man." Jack's voice was wondering. "He was going to kill you. You could have been killed yourself. Then we would have died together." Clara faced him in the moonlight. "I told you, you're not losing me, whatever comes." Jack kissed her, hard, desperate, like she was air and he'd been drowning. "Marry me." "What?" "Right now, tonight, before anything else can go wrong." He gripped her shoulders. "I've wasted 3 years mourning the past. I don't want to waste another minute." "Jack, we're fugitives. You just escaped jail. Crawford can go to hell. Harriet can go to hell. The whole world can go to hell." His voice broke. "But you stay right here, with me, forever." Clara's eyes filled with tears. "Yes. Yes. Yes." She laughed through her tears. "Yes, I'll marry you. Tonight. Tomorrow. Whenever you want." Jack pulled her close again, held her like he'd never let go. Behind them, the ranch hands cheered. Tommy Reeves threw his hat in the air. Walt Brennan wiped his eyes and pretended it was dust. But Clara knew the fight wasn't over. Crawford was still out there. The trial would still happen. Everything they'd built hung by a thread. Yet in this moment in Jack's arms, surrounded by people who'd risked everything for them, she believed they could win. She believed in second chances. She believed in love. And she believed that sometimes against all odds, the good guys actually triumph. Tomorrow would bring new battles, new dangers, new fears. But tonight, Clara Morrison said yes to the future, and meant every word. Federal Marshal Thomas Wade arrived 3 days early. Clara heard the hoofbeats before dawn, grabbed her rifle, met the rider at the gate with Walt and 4 armed ranch hands behind her. "Mrs. Morrison." The man wore a silver star. His face was weathered, his eyes sharp. "I'm looking for Jackson McAllister." "Who's asking?" "Federal government." Wade dismounted slowly, hands visible. "Got word there's trouble in Dusty Creek. Murder. Corruption. A rancher wrongfully imprisoned." He paused. "Also heard that same rancher escaped custody 2 nights ago." Clara's grip tightened on her rifle. "If you've come to arrest him, I've come to listen." Wade held up a telegram. "Message from Doc Henry Shaw. Says you've got evidence that changes everything. Says if I don't hear it, an innocent man dies and a murderer walks free." Clara lowered her weapon. "Doc Shaw sent for you. 3 days ago. I was supposed to arrive next week, but something about this situation." Wade shook his head. "Couldn't wait." Jack appeared on the porch. His arm was still bandaged. His face was hard. "Marshal?" "Mr. McAllister, I understand you've had quite a week." "You could say that. I could also say you're a fugitive from justice, escaped lawful custody, shot a guard." Wade's voice stayed neutral. "Those are serious charges." "That guard was paid to kill me. I've got witnesses." "Then let's hear them." Wade walked toward the house. "I've got all day, and something tells me this story's worth hearing." They gathered in the study. Clara, Jack, Walt, Doc Shaw, who'd ridden over at first light. Pete Holloway, pale but determined. Even Harriet Cole looking like a woman walking to her own execution. Wade listened, didn't interrupt. His face gave nothing away. Clara presented everything. The letters Harriet had stolen. Pete's testimony about Crawford's crimes. Miguel's account of the Crossroads ambush written down before the shepherd disappeared. The guard Decker's orders, which Clara had found in his pocket after she shot him. When she finished, the silence stretched tight as a wire. "Well," Wade sat back. "That's quite a tale. It's the truth." "Maybe, but truth doesn't always win in court." Wade looked at Harriet. "Mrs. Cole, you're willing to testify against Silas Crawford publicly under oath." Harriet's face was ashen. Yes. Knowing it'll destroy your reputation. Everything you've built in this town. My reputation is already destroyed. What I built was poison. Harriet's voice cracked. Crawford threatened my daughter. He would have killed her the way he killed Ruth McAllister. I won't stay silent anymore. Wade nodded slowly. And you, Mr. Holloway, you'll testify Crawford murdered your brother. I'll swear on a stack of Bibles. Pete's jaw tightened. My brother deserves justice. 3 years is long enough to wait. What about the shepherd Miguel? Gone. Clara's heart sank. Crawford's men got to him first. That's a problem. His testimony would have corroborated the Crossroads shooting. We have the guard Decker. Decker's in custody, but he's also got a bullet wound from you, Mrs. Morrison. Crawford's lawyers will say he was defending himself, say Jack resisted arrest, say you broke in and attacked. That's a lie. Doesn't matter what's true, matters what you can prove. Wade stood, paced to the window. Here's the situation. I can arrest Crawford based on this evidence. I can bypass the local court, take him to Austin for federal trial. But Crawford's got money connections lawyers who've never lost a case. You think we'll lose? I think it'll be close. Very close. Wade turned. Unless we get something more, something undeniable. Jack spoke for the first time. Like what? A confession, in front of witnesses. Wade's eyes glittered. Crawford's arrogant. You said so yourself. He brags about his crimes when he thinks he's safe. If we could get him talking, get him to admit what he's done, he'd never confess to a lawman. No, but he might confess to someone he thinks he's already beaten. Wade looked at Clara. Someone he underestimates. Clara's blood ran cold. You want me to confront Crawford, alone? Not alone. I'd be close, armed, ready to move the moment we have what we need. And if Crawford kills her first? Jack's voice was dangerous. If he decides she's too much trouble alive, he won't, not in public. Wade moved closer. Tomorrow morning, Dusty Creek's Main Street. Crawford will be there for the emergency town meeting. They're deciding what to do about Jack's escape. You approach him, accuse him publicly, make him angry enough to defend himself. You're using her as bait. I'm giving her a chance to end this. Wade met Jack's eyes. Or we can wait for the trial. Watch Crawford's lawyers tear our case apart piece by piece. Watch him walk free, while Jack here hangs for escaping custody. The silence was suffocating. Clara stood. I'll do it. Clara, no. Jack, listen to me. She faced him. I've spent 2 years being afraid, being careful, letting other people decide my fate. I won't do it anymore. This isn't courage, it's suicide. It's the only way. She touched his face. You asked me to marry you. I said yes. But I won't start our life together looking over my shoulder, waiting for Crawford to come back, wondering when he'll finish what he started. I can't lose you. You won't. Clara's voice steadied. I survived losing everything once. I survived scrubbing floors for pennies. I survived heat stroke and hunger and a town that wanted me dead. Silas Crawford is just one more obstacle. Jack stared at her. The fear in his eyes warred with something else. Pride, love, recognition. If anything happens to you, then you'll know I died fighting, not running. Clara kissed him softly. That's all any of us can ask for. Wade cleared his throat. We leave at dawn. I'll position my men around the square. The moment Crawford confesses, we move. And if he doesn't confess, then we'll have to improvise. Wade picked up his hat. Get some rest, Mrs. Morrison. Tomorrow's going to be a long day. He left. Doc Shaw followed. Pete Holloway slipped out to his hiding place. Only Jack and Clara remained. I'm terrified. Clara's voice was barely a whisper. Good. Terror keeps you sharp. Jack pulled her close. I'll be there tomorrow. In the crowd. If Crawford touches you, I'll kill him myself. That's not the plan. Plans change. He kissed her forehead. I've already lost one woman I loved because I wasn't there when she needed me. I won't make that mistake twice. You love me. Haven't I made that clear? Clara laughed through her tears. You've implied it, several times. Then let me be explicit. Jack cupped her face in his hands. I love you, Clara Morrison. I love your strength and your stubbornness, and the way you stood up to Harriet Cole without flinching. I love that you shot a man to save my life and barely blinked afterward. I blinked, later, when you weren't looking. I love that too. He kissed her properly this time, long, deep, like they had all the time in the world. They both knew they might not. Tomorrow, Clara whispered when they finally broke apart. Tomorrow? Jack agreed. Neither of them slept that night. Dusty Creek's Main Street filled early. Clara walked into town at 9 o'clock, head high, heart pounding. Wade's men were positioned around the square. She couldn't see them, but she knew they were there. Jack stood near the general store dressed like any other rancher rifle, hidden under his duster. Walt flanked him. Tommy Reeves covered the opposite corner. The townspeople gathered in clusters, whispering. Clara felt their eyes on her, some hostile, some curious, some more than she'd expected sympathetic. Silas Crawford arrived at 1:15. He rode in like a conquering king flanked by 4 armed men. His suit was expensive. His smile was cold. Well? Crawford dismounted slowly. If it isn't Mrs. Morrison, I heard you'd fled the county after your little jailbreak. I don't run. No, your employer does. Shot a guard and vanished into the night like a common criminal. Crawford stepped closer. You know the penalty for harboring fugitives, I assume. I know the penalty for murder, for arson, for attempting to kill an innocent man. Clara's voice carried across the square. I know what you did to Ruth McAllister. What you did to Pete Holloway's brother. What you tried to do to Jack. Crawford's smile didn't waver, but something shifted behind his eyes. That's quite an accusation. It's the truth. The truth. Crawford laughed. The truth is, whatever money says it is. And I have more money than God. Money can't buy everything. It bought this town. It bought the sheriff. It bought the judge. Crawford leaned in close. It could buy you too, Mrs. Morrison, if you'd let it. I'm not for sale. Everyone's for sale. Just a matter of finding the right price. His voice dropped. Or the right pressure point. Jack McAllister, for instance. He'd do anything to protect you. Even give up his ranch, his freedom, his life. You'd know about destroying lives. You've had plenty of practice. Crawford's jaw tightened. The mask slipped just for a moment. Ruth McAllister was weak. She couldn't handle the real world. When I told her the truth that I'd never marry some rancher's sister, she fell apart. You used her. I enjoyed her. There's a difference. Crawford's smile returned uglier now. She was sweet enough, but women like that break too easily. Not like you. You've got steel in your spine. Ruth didn't break. You destroyed her. I gave her what she wanted. Attention, affection, a few months of feeling special. Crawford shrugged. Not my fault she took it too seriously. Clara's hands trembled. With rage, with grief, with the effort of not launching herself at his throat. You killed her. I didn't touch her. She walked into that river on her own 2 feet. Crawford's eyes glittered. I just gave her reasons to. And Pete Holloway's brother. Who? Crawford's confusion seemed genuine. The man you had killed. Barn collapse. Made it look like an accident. Oh, him. Crawford waved dismissively. He saw things he shouldn't have. Asked questions he shouldn't have asked. Sometimes obstacles need to be removed. You're admitting to murder. I'm having a private conversation with a woman who's going to be dead by sunset. Crawford stepped back, gestured to his men. "Take her. Quietly if possible. But take her." His men moved forward. "That's far enough." Marshal Wade stepped out of the shadows, badge gleaming. Behind him, 6 federal deputies appeared with rifles raised. Crawford froze. "Silas Crawford, you're under arrest for the murder of Ruth McAllister, the murder of Thomas Holloway, the attempted murder of Jackson McAllister, arson, conspiracy, and corruption of public officials." "This is ridiculous." Crawford's voice rose. "You have no jurisdiction here. Federal marshal, federal crimes. My jurisdiction is wherever I say it is." Wade nodded at Clara. "Nice work, Mrs. Morrison. Got every word." "You were listening. The whole time." Wade pulled out a small notebook. "All recorded. Witnesses everywhere." He looked at Crawford. "You wanted to know the price of buying this town? You just paid it." Crawford's composure shattered. "You can't do this. Do you know who I am? Do you know what I know exactly what you are." Jack stepped forward from the crowd. "I've known since the day my sister died. I just couldn't prove it until now." Crawford's face twisted with hatred. "McAllister, I should have killed you years ago." "You tried. Multiple times. Didn't work out." Jack stopped inches from Crawford's face. "This is for Ruth, and for every other life you've destroyed." He didn't punch him, didn't draw his weapon, just stood there letting Crawford see exactly how little power he had left. "Take him away." Wade gestured to his deputies. "The trial will be in Austin. No local judges, no bought juries, just the truth." Crawford screamed curses as they dragged him toward the wagon. His men, seeing which way the wind blew, dropped their weapons without a fight. Clara watched until the wagon disappeared down the road. Then her knees buckled. Jack caught her before she hit the ground. "I've got you." "It's over. It's over." Clara wept. For Ruth, for Samuel. For every moment of fear and shame and survival. She wept until there was nothing left, and Jack held her through all of it. The wedding happened 3 weeks later. Not a grand affair. Not the social event Dusty Creek expected from its richest rancher. Just a simple ceremony in the rebuilt barn, surrounded by people who'd fought alongside them. Doc Shaw officiated. Walt Brennan stood as best man. Lucille Reeves, no longer Cole, served as Clara's attendant, her own wedding ring gleaming beside Tommy's. The townspeople came. Not all of them, but enough. Mrs. Peterson from the general store, who'd refused to serve Clara months ago, now brought a wedding cake she'd baked herself. The young guard from the jail, the one who'd let Clara through, stood quietly in the back, his own conscience finally clear. Even Harriet Cole appeared. She stood at the edge of the gathering alone. Her dress was plain. Her face was worn. Whatever power she'd once wielded had evaporated like morning dew. Clara saw her watching, hesitated, then walked over. "Mrs. Cole." "Mrs. Morrison." Harriet's voice was barely audible. "I shouldn't have come. I just wanted to see. See what? That something good came from all this ugliness." Harriet's eyes filled with tears. "I can't undo what I did. I know that. But seeing you happy, seeing Lucille happy, maybe it means the poison stops here." Clara studied the woman before her. Saw not a monster, but a broken human being. Someone who'd built walls so high, she'd forgotten there was a person inside them. "The poison stops when we choose to stop it." Clara's voice softened. "You chose. Finally. That counts for something." "Does it?" "It saved Jack's life. It saved Lucille's future." Clara paused. "It gave us Crawford's confession." Harriet nodded slowly. "I'm leaving Dusty Creek. Tomorrow. There's nothing left for me here." "Where will you go?" "My sister. In California. She doesn't know what I've done." Harriet's voice cracked. "Maybe I can start over. Be different." "Maybe you can." They stood in silence for a moment. Then Clara extended her hand. Harriet stared at it like she didn't understand. "I'm not forgiving you," Clara said quietly. "Not yet, maybe not ever, but I'm acknowledging that you tried to make it right. That has to mean something." Harriet took her hand, squeezed once. "Let go." "Be happy, Mrs. Morrison. Be so happy it hurts." She walked away. Clara watched her go. "Everything all right?" Jack appeared at her shoulder. "It will be." Clara turned to face him. "Ready to get married?" "Been ready for 3 years. Just didn't know it until you collapsed in my barn." Clara laughed. "That's the strangest declaration of love I've ever heard." "Wait until the vows. I've been practicing." The ceremony was simple. The vows were not. Jack spoke first. "Clara Jane Morrison, I've spent 3 years being afraid. Afraid of losing. Afraid of loving. Afraid of letting anyone close enough to hurt me again. You didn't give me a choice in the matter. You crashed into my life literally and refused to leave. Best thing that ever happened to me." Clara smiled through her tears. "I promise to protect you. Not because you need protecting, we both know you don't, but because I want to. I promise to fight beside you, not in front of you. I promise to listen when you're angry, and hold you when you're afraid, and laugh with you when everything falls apart." He took her hands. "Most of all, I promise to be worthy of the second chance you've given me. Every day. For the rest of our lives." Doc Shaw cleared his throat. "Mrs. Morrison, your vows." Clara steadied herself. "Jackson McAllister, I came to Dusty Creek with nothing. No money. No hope. No reason to believe tomorrow would be better than today. You gave me all 3. Jack's eyes glistened. "I promise to be your partner. Not your possession. I promise to challenge you when you're wrong and support you when you're right, even when you can't tell the difference. I promise to make this ranch a home again. Fill it with life. Fill it with love." She stepped closer. "You told me once that I deserved a better life. I didn't believe you. I'd forgotten what I deserved. You reminded me." Her voice broke. "I promise to spend every day reminding you of the same thing. By the power vested in me," Doc Shaw said, voice thick, "I pronounce you husband and wife. Jack, kiss your bride." Jack didn't need to be told twice. The cheering lasted 5 full minutes. Cowboys threw their hats in the air. Women wept openly. Even Walt Brennan, tough-weathered Walt, wiped his eyes and blamed the dust. Later, after the celebration wound down, Jack and Clara stood on the porch of their home. Their home. The words still felt strange, wonderful. "What now?" Clara asked. "Now we rebuild. The barn's almost finished. The cattle are recovering. If the rains come this fall, we might actually turn a profit." "I meant for us," Jack smiled. "For us, we live, we work, we argue about stupid things and make up afterward. We build something worth having." "That's simple. That's simple." He pulled her close. "I've spent enough years making life complicated. Time to try something different." Clara leaned against his chest, listened to his heartbeat. Steady, strong, real. "I keep waiting for something to go wrong. Something will. That's life. The difference is now we face it together." Together. She tasted the word, let it settle into her bones. "I like that." "Good, because you're stuck with me now." Jack kissed the top of her head. "Mrs. McAllister." Clara Morrison McAllister. The name felt like armor, like home. She thought about the woman she'd been 6 months ago, collapsed in a barn, starving, alone, convinced she'd run out of chances. That woman was gone. In her place stood someone new, someone forged by fire and tempered by love, someone who'd learned that survival wasn't enough, you had to fight for something more. Jack. Thank you for seeing me. That first night, when nobody else did. Didn't have a choice." His arms tightened around her. "You were too stubborn to stay invisible." Clara laughed. really laughed. The sound echoed across the empty land, carrying into the night. Behind them, the house glowed with warmth. Ahead of them, the future stretched out like open range, vast, uncertain, full of possibility. They walked inside together. The door closed behind them. And in that moment, Clara Morrison McAllister understood something she'd forgotten since Samuel died. Life wasn't about avoiding pain. It wasn't about playing safe. It wasn't about hiding from judgment or fear or the cruelty of small-minded people. Life was about choosing, every single day. Choosing to hope when hope seemed foolish. Choosing to love when love seemed dangerous. Choosing to stand up when the whole world wanted you to kneel. She'd made her choice. In a burning barn. At a midnight jailbreak. In front of a murderer who thought he'd already won. And she'd keep making it. Every morning, every challenge, every storm that came their way. Because Clara Morrison McAllister had finally learned the truth about second chances. They didn't come from other people. They came from yourself. From the moment you decided you were worth fighting for. From the moment you stopped waiting to be rescued and started doing the rescuing. From the moment you looked at all the reasons to give up and chose instead to begin again. That was the secret, the only one that mattered. You couldn't go back. You couldn't undo what was done. You couldn't change the people who'd hurt you or the circumstances that had broken you. But you could choose what happened next. Clara had chosen, and she would keep choosing every single day for the rest of her life. Not because the world was kind, but because she was strong enough to be kind to herself. That was enough. That was everything. That was the only happy ending that ever really mattered.